What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Unpopular Opinion, and today I'm going to be talking about the 1955 movie Marty.
Hey Marty, what happened with you?
Guys, Marty was extremely popular in its time. It won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, and it made Ernest Borgnine really a star, starring Ernest Borgnine, and it's a great movie. However, unfortunately, that popularity of the film kind of stayed in the 1950s because nowadays the movie's largely forgotten. So my stance on the movie is, guys, I think it's an underappreciated, forgotten gem. It's a hidden gem. It's a masterpiece. Very well done. And I think it's responsible for turning Ernest Borgnine into a star. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ernest Borgnine is famous to people of our generation because he voiced Mermaid Man on SpongeBob.
How many of you know SpongeBob? Yes! I said, well, I happen to play Mermaid Man. I was in.
But prior to that, Ernest Borgnine had a really big, long career and was in a lot of great movies of his time, like Poseidon Adventure, Emperor of the North, or North Pole, depending on who you ask, The Wild Bunch, Dirty Dozen. Like, Ernest Borgnine, or McHale's Navy, he was a really big star, and Marty was responsible for that. But I guess that means nothing because his legacy can be summed up to
Evil? What can you possibly describe about a character that has a thing over his nose like this and says evil?
Be that as it may, guys, Marty's responsible for that. We wouldn't have him without that. So, guys, today I'm going to be explaining why I like the movie Marty, why I think it's an underappreciated and forgotten gem, and let's just get right into it, guys. So, what's Marty about? Marty is about Italian-American man in his mid-30s. He is looking to start a family. He wants to settle down. He wants to find a woman. However, unfortunately for him, he doesn't have any success in his dating life. He's constantly getting rejected over and over and over again. He's upset about it, and unfortunately for him, women don't like him. In his own words, he says,
whatever it is that women like, I ain't got it. I got hurt enough. I don't want to get hurt no more.
So in addition to him not having any success in his dating life and him being chronically single and miserable about it, his peers and his loved ones constantly put pressure on him to get married, and they're constantly badgering him, pestering him, and they make the mistake of thinking he's actively choosing to be a bachelor as opposed to him really struggling to get someone to like him or struggling to get someone to fall in love with him.
When are you gonna get married to Marty? What's the matter with you? That's a no way.
Which puts a lot of unnecessary added pressure onto him, and it builds his insecurities because being reminded constantly that women don't find you attractive is not good for him.
You got a bachelor on your hands. I ain't never gonna get married.
You're gonna get married. Marty, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. When are you gonna get married?
Girls made me feel like I was a bug. Miserable and lonely and stupid. I got feelings, you know. I had enough pain. No thanks.
So anyway, one night, he and his friend go to a dance hall, and he meets a woman whose date bails on her, and him and her hit it off very well. They have a great time together. The chemistry is great. The date was awesome. He had such a fun time, and he thinks that there's a future in this. However, the unfortunate thing for Marty is his mom, you know, who's really close with him, his family, his friends, did not like this woman. They didn't like her, and they're telling him, no, don't call her back. What are you doing? We don't like her. Find someone else. So the real drama of this film is finally, you know, Marty, who's struggling in his dating life, who's chronically single, who can't find someone. He finally finds someone who he likes, finally finds someone who he's got chemistry with, but his family and his friends don't like her, and they're saying, no, don't call her. Find someone else, as if it was easy for him to do. And the rest of the film is him struggling between the do I do what my peers say, or do I go with what my heart says? And that's the genius of this movie. So guys, what I like about this film, for one, is, I mean, Ernest Borgnine's always been one of my favorite actors. He's in my top 10 favorite actors, actually. And this performance was amazing. I thought he was a really, really believable part. And I really liked the character of Marty. And you know what? Let the performance speak for itself. This performance right here, like this little segment, this is what won him his Oscar.
Ma, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? I'm miserable enough as it is. And you know what I'm gonna get for my trouble? A big night of heartache.
So yeah, Marty's struggling, and we see that perfectly conveyed by Ernest Borgnine. But another thing is, like, the other actors in the supporting roles, I really liked them too, okay? They did a great job. It was a great big cast that really complemented the plot of the movie. And the plot of the movie was really good, really, really entertaining. And you know what I like about movies like this? This movie didn't have any violence or, like, like foul language or really anything that kind of draws in people of the modern age nowadays, you know, like the Family Guy theme song, like it seems today that all you see is violence in movies and sex on TV. This movie's not that, okay? What makes this movie great is you're enthralled, you're captivated by the plot alone, the performances, and the characters. That right there is enough to keep you drawn into the movie. So it doesn't have to rely on violence or like foul language to be entertaining, and I really like that. Now, another thing, a lot of people nowadays in my generation unfortunately have the idea that older movies are bad and they tend to not like black and white films. Now, I don't agree with that. I don't follow that, but I do understand why people nowadays say that. However, I don't think if you were a modern audience viewer and you were to watch this with the lens of like Gen Z that, oh, it's black and white, I don't think that's gonna matter, because if you give it like 5 minutes, you're going to be captured in. You're going to be sucked in by the performance. You're going to be sucked in by the plot. You're going to be sucked in by the nice filmmaking techniques that go into it. And I don't think it's going to matter. It's going to overshadow the fact that it's black and white, and you're gonna overlook it and you won't even give it a second thought. So I don't think that's gonna be a problem. Also, like, this movie's delightfully charming. There's something so charming about 1950s music where there's like cool instrumentals or like the music of the time in the movies. It's just so cool. I love that. It's not a period piece because it takes place in the day that it's portraying. So it's not saying, oh, you know, back in 1892. No, it's the movie filmed in the 50s, taking place in the 50s, and it's got that nice time capsule feeling to it, like you're going back in time, and that's really cool. So the music is graceful, it's charming, and I love the ending theme over the credits. You know, that was really cool. I love when movies have ending credit sequence like that with a nice, charming, graceful song to complement the whole thing. Like, you're having a great time through it, now this song just cements the fact of why you think it's amazing. But guys, all of those reasons kind of pale into comparison as to the true reason why I think this movie is a genius film. It's because, well, it's a very relatable movie. A lot of guys are going through what Marty's going through in the modern age. You know, dating's become extremely difficult for a lot of guys, and a lot of people can feel with what Marty's going through. They can sympathize, empathize, and be like, hey, you know, the Leonardo DiCaprio, we've all been there, you know. It's difficult, and it's very relatable.
All right, so I'll go to the Stardust Ballroom. I'll put on a blue suit and I'll go.
So for that reason alone, I think a lot of people could really enjoy this movie or really sink their teeth into it and be not only captivated by the plot and the performances, but the fact that you could relate to it. It's a very relatable movie regardless of the time period you're in. So if you're a dude in the modern age and you're like, oh, hey, I've been there. We've all been there.
I just called up a girl this afternoon. I got a real brush off. I figured I was past the point of being hurt, but that hurt.
That's what's genius about this movie. So yeah, like I said, this movie's very relatable for a lot of guys, and I wouldn't be surprised if this movie had a resurgence of popularity, or it revived itself, a revival in popularity, like a Marty renaissance. Someone rediscovers it and goes like, hey, yeah, you know, dating's become very hard for a lot of young men. Marty predicted it.
They're the worst. College girls are one step from the street, I tell you.
He cold. She belongs to the streets.
Or Marty is very relatable. Let's check this out. And another thing that I really like about this movie is it doesn't have like cliches. It doesn't have like because I'm not into romance movies, but ironically this is a romance movie. But it doesn't rely on cliches. It doesn't rely on like that like sappy crap, but it's pretty cool. Basically the movie unfolds in like 3 days. We have the introduction to Marty, then we have his date, and then the next day where his friends and family are like, you're not really gonna call that woman back, are you?
These college girls, they all have one step from the street.
What are you talking about? She's a nice girl.
And the reason why his friends don't really like this woman is, I mean, frankly, it's a superficial reason. She's not that attractive. She's not a remarkable woman. She's a little below average, and a lot of guys are like, oh, you can do better, Marty, when in actuality, like, she actually wasn't a bad woman. Nothing wrong with her. And I like the fact that these two people who, you know, they're both struggling in their dating life, because both Marty's date Clara and Marty, they're not like super attractive, but they work together very well. They're compatible, they have chemistry, they like each other. They kind of have similar life values because they're both Catholic.
I'm Catholic. Are you Catholic?
Yes, I am.
And they both kind of seem to want the same thing. And really, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So they even address this, like, well, we might not be the best looking, but what does that matter in the end? And it's true, and I like that concept. So when all the characters are like, oh, don't call her back, it's for dumb, superficial reasons. And spoiler alert, I thought the ending was really cool, because at the end, you know, Marty's kind of resigned himself to like, oh, you know what, my friends don't like her, I'm not gonna call her back, fine. And you see her crying the next day because she's like, oh, he promised he'd call me, oh, I've been heartbroken again, or I've been stood up again, and she's crying. And then Marty's at like the truck stop with his friends or something, and he's kind of just like, Like, he's resigned himself to his misery, and all his friends are like, oh, what are you doing tonight? What are you doing tonight? Which was a pretty cool, fun running gag in the movie. And then eventually he finally snaps, and he's like, yeah, you know what? You guys don't like her. My mom doesn't like her. Screw you guys. I'm calling her anyway. I don't care what you think. You know.
You don't like her? That's too bad.
And the ending, I love the ending. It was so cool because his friend is like, what are you doing? Don't do this. Don't do this.
Marty, what's the matter, Marty? What's the matter with you?
And he's chewing him out, and he's finally like, okay, fine. You know, Angie's like, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy. You do you. And Marty's in the phone booth. You know, he's dialing the number. He's putting the coins in the phone, and he's looking at him, and he's like, hey, Ange, how come you ain't getting married? Kind of like the whole spiel, because you know, like I was saying in the beginning, his friends and his family and his like peers are always saying like, oh, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're living the bachelor lifestyle. Get married. And finally, Marty's like, oh, you know, this is a chance. I could probably get married to this girl, and now I get a chance to throw this back in your face.
Hey, Ange, when are you going to get married? You're going to be ashamed of yourself. You're 33 years old. You're going to be ashamed of yourself.
That was such a cool scene. And like I said, it ushers into the ending credits because we don't really know what happens with Marty after that. Like, you just hear him go, hello, Clara?
Excuse me, Ange. Hello, Clara.
It cuts to the end, so we don't know. But based off of like the song, end credits song, it implies that her and Marty got together and married because, you know, the song is like, hey, Marty, where have you been? You know, it's been a full year since we've chug-a-lugged a beer. And, you know, that's typically what happens when your boys get married and, you know, they're no longer around because they've got priorities, their family. So yeah, the ending was great. So guys, that's my overall opinion, overall attitude, everything how I feel about the movie Marty. I think it's a delightfully charming film. I think it's an amazingly entertaining movie. It works very well. I mean, it would probably work great as a play because if I'm not mistaken, it was a teleplay at one point, or it was adapted from a teleplay, because it unfolds as such. You know, there's not a lot of set pieces. It's over the course of like 2 or 3 days, and it's basically just Marty explaining for the audience. He's not doing well in his love life. His dating life is difficult. He's struggling. He's getting rejected over and over, and it's taking a toll on him. And then you see him on the date, and then the next day. So that's pretty much how the movie unfolds. It's not that long. It's kind of a short movie, but like I said, I think it's an underrated movie. I think it's a hidden gem. I think it's a masterpiece, and I think it's unfortunate that its popularity is gone. It's kind of like the thing from Amadeus where Salieri is like, you know, I had 40 operas, and now I've grown old to watch myself become extinct. Because in its time, it was very popular, but unfortunately that popularity was left in the 1950s. So the reason why I like it, the performances were great, the plot was amazing, the characters were riveting, it really just grasps you and pulls you in, and it keeps your attention, or it keeps your attention throughout the film. But also, like I said, the fact is, like, this movie is extremely relatable. A lot of people could relate to this movie, and I wouldn't be surprised if this film has a resurgence of popularity and gets rediscovered, and a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Marty. So guys, that's my opinion on the movie Marty. Very great film. I suggest you check it out. If you are a fan of Ernest Borgnine, or at the very least, if you like SpongeBob and the whole evil mermaid man thing.
And so everybody, do it. I said, evil.
We wouldn't have Mermaid Man if it wasn't for Marty. So pay the respects to Marty and just watch the movie. You'll not regret it. You'll really like it. So yeah, Marty, underrated, forgotten gem. You should totally check it out. Speaking of checking it out, you guys should check out my new YouTube channel. I started a second channel, Unboxing with Bob Phillips, where basically I open packages from the mail or collectibles, and I'll build Legos in front of you guys, all that cool stuff. That will be linked in the description below. My new channel, Unboxing with Bob Phillips. Check it out. Also, check me out on Instagram. That too will be linked in the description below. Please give me a follow. I guess like my pictures. I don't know, that's vain. But still check me out and follow me on Instagram. And that's gonna do it, guys. Am I missing anything? Oh, yeah. Like and subscribe. Duh. Comment below, let me know what you think. If you liked Marty, if you want to see Marty, if it's interesting, or if you think the concept is relatable. That's probably the best question. Is this concept relatable to you? Do you think that Marty is applicable to how a lot of dudes are moving and dating nowadays? Well, comment below, let me know. And yeah, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Unpopular Opinion.